Earth movements. Various forces are acting on the surface of the earth. Okay, the forces are acting on the surface from within the earth and on the earth, outside the earth. So all the forces are exerted on the surface. Outside we have the solar energy, sun, wind energy, precipitation, and glaciers. From below we'll be having the volcanic eruptions. So from below we'll be having the volcanic eruptions over below, and the movement of the lithosphere and earthquakes. So the geomorphic processes. What are the geomorphic processes? All the processes which are involved in changing the surface of the surface from below or above, changing the surface which are acting from below the surface or above the surface. Geomorphic processes are the processes which are involved in changing of the surface. So what are geomorphic processes? The processes which are involved in, the processes are involved, we can say that the processes are involved in changing, these processes are involved in changing of the surface. So the processes involved in changing of the surface. All such geomorphic processes are involved in two types of the changes: exogenetic or exogenic, and endogenic or endogenetic. Right. So we'll be having the exogenetic, and then we have the endogenetic. Exogenetic are outside the Earth's surface, the forces which are acting outside the Earth's surface. Endogenetic is the genetic means origin. So endogenetic means inside. It is originated inside the Earth. It is originated outside the surface of the Earth. So we say that the exogenetic is originated. How do we define this? The exogenetic is originated from outside. It is originated from outside the surface. It is originated from outside the surface of the earth. So this is being originated from outside the surface of the earth. Then we'll be having the endogenetic. Now endogenetic is origin from within the earth, from within the earth, inside the earth or from within the earth, is what we call it as the endogenetic. So the exogenetic sources are the solar energy, gravity. Gravity is responsible for the river flow. River flows down the gravity, landslides, and agents like the wind, river, glaciers. So we have solar energy. The source is going to be the solar energy, and gravity is a source. The source of the energy is solar, and then the gravity. The agents are wind, river, they are agents, and even the glaciers are agents. Minor topographical features does not result in the creation of huge mountains. So the exogenetic forces results in the minor creation of the minor topographical features. So they are resulting in minor topographical features. It does not result in the creation of huge mountains. So it does not result in the creation of the huge mountains. Now we'll be having the endogenetic forces. Genetic is the origin, right? Endo means inside, originated from inside the earth. The source of the energy is going to be the primordial heat, the heat which is still present during the creation of the universe, right? So the primordial heat, and then we have radioactivity. The source of energy are sun and solar energy and gravity in case of exogenetic forces, whereas for the endogenetic forces we have the primordial heat, and then we have radioactivity. Again, the agents are going to vary with respect to the mantle is pluming. So we have the mantle which is pluming. With respect to the agents, we'll be having the mantle plume with respect to the agents, and then we have the magma is going the eruption. Mantle is pluming, magma is erupting. So the mantle is pluming, and then we have the magma is erupting, and movement of the lithospheric plates. The lithospheric plates are moving. So we will be having the lithospheric plates are moving. The lithospheric plates are moving. So agents are going to be the mantle is blooming, magma is erupting, and the lithospheric plates are moving. The lithospheric plates are moving over here, but the agents over here is wind, river, and then we have the glaciers are the agents. Now solar energy we be having the gravity, and the source of the solar energy and gravity are the source of the energy in the exogenetic forces. So in the exogenetic forces and in the endogenetic forces we will be having the primordial heat and radioactivity. The agents in the exogenetic are wind, river, and glaciers. The agents here are mantle plumes, magma eruption, and the movement of the lithospheric plates. This results in minor topographical features. This results in the major topographical features. It results in major topographical features. So various forces are acting on the surface of the earth. Various forces are acting at the surface. Either it can be from outside or from within. So various forces are acting on the surface of the earth. They cause physical stress and chemical actions on the earth's materials. So these forces are responsible for chemical actions and physical stress on the earth's materials. These forces cause the chemical actions and physical stress on the earth's materials. So there is a stress on the earth's materials which brings about the changes in the configuration of the earth's surface, which are called as a geomorphic processes. The changes in the earth's surface is what we call it as a changes in the configuration due to various forces. The changes in the configuration of the earth's surface. The changes in the configuration of the earth's surface, this is due to various forces. So we have various forces. These forces are acting due to various forces which are acting from within or outside the surface is what we call it as the geomorphic processes. The geomorphic processes are a result of two types of the forces. Endogenetic forces are acting from within. So what is endogenetic forces are acting from within, and exogenetic forces are acting outside the earth's surface. So endogenetic and exogenetic forces. Now we have the endogenetic forces. These are the forces which are acting from the earth's surface and result in various changes on the land surface, like the changes is upliftment. Endogenetic is going to cause first thing is folding, or it is going to break, right? Folding and then faulting, uplift and subsidence. So folding and faulting, upliftment, and then we have the subsidence. So what are the changes is going to take place? These forces acting from the earth's interior result in various changes on the land surface. Like what are the various changes on the land surface? Is folding. So we'll be having the folding, it is going to fold, and then the breaking is what we call it as the faulting. So folding and then we have the faulting. So uplift and then it is going to come up. Folding and faulting is with respect to this. When the forces are acting in opposite directions, there is faulting. When the forces are acting at same direction, there is folding. Right? Upliftment and subsidence. Folding, faulting. Folding, faulting, upliftment and subsidence. So these are the forces. Endogenetic forces are acting on the earth's interior. We say that the endogenetic forces are acting on the earth's interior and result in various changes on the land surface, like upliftment, subsidence, folding and faulting. Endogenetic forces are resulting in these changes, these four changes: upliftment, subsidence, folding, and then we have the faulting, right? The source of the endogenetic forces are primordial heat and radioactivity. So the source of this endogenetic forces are, the first one being the primordial heat. Primordial heat, and then the second one is going to be being the radioactivity. Primordial heat and radioactivity. So the source is two types of the sources, primordial heat and then we have the radioactivity, whereas these forces result into the various changes like upliftment, subsidence, folding and faulting. The source of this energy for the endogenetic forces are primordial heat and radioactivity. Are the source of the heat. Endogenetic forces are responsible the formation of the major structures like mountains, plateaus, oceanic bases. So we have the mountains, plateaus. Then we also have the oceanic basins, etc. Mountains, plateaus, oceanic basins, etc. Right. Now let us revise from the first till the endogenetic forces. Now, various forces are acting on the surface of the earth, right? We know that various forces are acting on the surface of the earth. They cause physical stress and chemical actions. They cause stress. So, they are causing the stress and then they are causing the chemical actions as well. So, various forces are acting on the surface of the earth. These various forces are causing the physical stress and then it is also causing the chemical action on the earth's material, bringing about the changes in the configuration of the earth's surface, which are called as geomorphic processes. So, when various forces are acting and there are also changes in the surface, therefore, we call it as the geomorphic process. Now, the geomorphic process is a result of two types of the forces. So, what are the two types of the forces over here? Endogenetic forces and exogenetic forces. This endogenetic forces is acting from interior of the earth and results in various changes in the land surface like uplift. You are going to come up, upliftment, or it is subsiding, subsidence, going down, right? Subsidence. Then we have folding and faulting. This upliftment, subsidence, folding, and faulting results into mountains, plateaus, and then we also have the oceanic basins. Oceanic basins, right? The origin, the source, origin of these energies. Origin of the energy for the endogenetic forces are primordial heat and radioactivity. Primordial heat, the heat which is present during the creation of the universe or the solar system is primordial heat, and then we have radioactivity. Primordial heat is the heat which is present within the earth. The heat during the creation of the universe, solar system, and the earth. So this heat is stored in the earth and it is still present. This causes this acts as a source for endogenetic forces. So we have the primordial heat and then we have the radioactivity. Endogenetic forces are also responsible for the formation of major structural units of the earth's surface like the mountains. We know mountains, plateaus, oceanic basins. Now we discuss relating to the exogenetic forces. These are the forces acting on the surface from outside the earth's surface. These forces are acting on the surface, act on the surface. These forces act on the surface from outside. This is from outside. So these forces are acting from outside the earth's surface. Outside the earth's surface. So these forces are going to act outside the earth's surface is what we call it as the exogenetic forces. The forces act on the surface, we are from outside the earth's surface, right? They derive their energy from the sources such as solar energy and gravity. So their sources are only two sources, right? Solar energy, and then we have the gravity. So their sources is going to be the solar energy, and then we have the gravity. The result is weathering, erosion, and deposition. So there in endogenetic we will be having the upliftment, subsidence, and folding and faulting. But here we are going to tell that it results in the weathering. It is being eroded. Weathering, erosion, and deposition. First, the particles are weathering. It is being eroded and deposited at a place. So erosion, weathering, it is weathering, the rock is weathering, it is being eroded and carried away, and it is depositing at a place. So this is the result of exogenetic forces. For endogenetic forces, we have the result as upliftment, subsidence, fold, and faulting. In the exogenetic, we will be having the weathering and erosion. The exogenetic results in the weathering, and then we have the erosion and deposition as well. Weathering, erosion, and deposition, they are responsible for the formation of minor topographic features like the caves, sand dunes, valleys. So minor topographic features like the valleys, caves, and then we have the sand dunes. Minor topographic features such as the caves. We have the caves, we also have the valleys, and then we have the sand dunes are the minor topographic features. But endogenetic is going to result in the plateaus, mountains, and then also the oceanic basin. Now, what are porphyry and pyroclast? Porphyry is going to be a textural term for igneous rocks consisting of large grained crystals such as feldspar or quartz dispersed in a fine grained silicate rich, generally aphanitic matrix or ground mass. Larger crystals are called as phenocystic. Pyroclastic rocks are classic rocks composed of rock fragments projected and ejected by the explosive volcano. The explosive volcano, it ejects the pyroclast. The individual rock fragments are known as pyroclasts. Pyroclastic rocks are the type of volcanic clastic deposit which are deposits made permanently of volcanic portions. We have seen the geomorphic processes endogenetic and exogenetic. Endogenetic, we have the sudden forces and diastrophic. Diastrophic is again classified into tectonic, isostatic or eustatic, and epirogenetic and orogenetic. Orogenetic is mountain formation. Now, in sudden movements of endogenetic, from inside we have volcanoes and earthquakes. Mountain, we have the tensional forces is falling, and compressional forces is folding and warping. Now, sedimentary rocks are continuous, whereas foliated metamorphic rocks have contrast between them. Reasons for the endogenetic. Now we are discussing about the endogenetic forces separately and exogenetic forces also separately, right? So first let us look into the endogenetic forces. Now, the geomorphic processes or the Earth's movement is classified into two types. The first is endogenetic and exogenetic. We know the exogenetic forces is because of the solar energy and gravity, and the agents are wind, river, glaciers. So, endogenetic alone is having a classification of diastrophic and sudden movements. In sudden movements, is very easy to remember. We have the volcanic eruptions and then we have the earthquake. Whereas in the endogenetic forces, we have the diastrophic forces, and then we have the sudden movements, right? In the diastrophic forces are further classified into epirogenetic and orogenetic. Orogenetic are mountain building, epirogenetic and orogenetic. So in orogenetic, further we are going into the tensional forces and compressional forces. Tensional forces, and then we have the tensional forces and compressional forces, right? It is further classified into the tensional forces and compressional forces. Tensional forces results into the faulting and compressional forces is result into the warping, and then we have folding. Right. Now, reasons for endogenetic is magma movement, or we also have the volcanic eruption, right? So the magma movement and then we also have the volcanic eruption are reasons for endogenetic. Magma is having a movement or volcanic eruption. Ganga plain is earthquake is happening frequently. In the southern peninsula, the rock is harder, therefore it is having less earthquake. The sudden movements are can be felt, it has stops. Diastropics are continuously happening and they are slow movements. Sudden at an instant. So sudden movements happen only during specific time. It is not happening continuously. So we have the sudden movements, right? They are happening suddenly. Can be felt. We can feel it. Sudden movements means it happens suddenly. We can feel it. Whereas in the diastrophic movements, it is happening continuously. Whereas we say that the diastrophic movements is happening continuously. The diastrophic movements are happening continuously and it is slow and very difficult to notice. They are very difficult to notice. So diastrophic movements are continuous movements which are slow and very difficult to notice. Sudden movements happen suddenly and it can be felt. Diastrophic movements are happening continuously, they are very slow and it is difficult to feel. Now, sudden movements can be felt and it is having a stop, whereas diastrophic movements are happening continuously and they are slowly very difficult for the human beings to notice major topographic features or major primary landforms like the mountain formation. The endogenetic movements, here we have the endogenetic movements, can be classified into diastrophic and sudden movements. The sudden movements are shorter in duration, unpredictable, and can be observed by the human beings. They are shorter in duration, unpredictable, and observed by the human beings. Right, we have the endogenetic movements and then we have the sudden movements. The endogenetic movements are first classified into diastrophic and then we have the sudden movements. The sudden movements are of shorter duration. The sudden movements are of shorter duration. They are unpredictable. We cannot predict them and can be observed by the human beings. They are observed by the human beings. Example is the earthquake and volcanic eruptions. So this is the example like the earthquake and volcanic eruptions. We'll be having the endogenetic movements, right? The endogenetic movements, they are classified into diastrophic and sudden movements. The sudden movements are shorter in duration and they are unpredictable. They can be observed by the human beings. Example is the earthquake. The diastrophic movements operate very slowly but continuously and lead to the formation of primary landforms. So we say that the diastrophic movements are the movements which operate slowly. So the movements operate slowly but continuously. So diastrophic movements act slowly but they are acting continuously. They operate slowly and they are operating continuously and they lead to the formation of primary landforms. These movements move, build, build up, elevate the portions of the Earth's crust. Diastrophic movements can be classified into three types. First is tectonic, isostatic, and eustatic. Tectonic is to build up something, right? The diastrophic movements are further classified into three types: tectonic, isostatic, and eustatic. Tectonic means to build up. It forces which are causing some kind of a creation. So tectonic, what is tectonic? The tectonic means we have to build something. This force are causing creation. They are some kind of a creation, right? The creation includes mountains, plateaus, huge continents. Whether it is a mountain or it is a plateau or it is a huge continent. So mountain, plateau, and then we have the huge continent. Isostatic are balancing forces which do not create anything. Eustatic is the changes in the water level. Isostatic is nothing but a balance. So we have isostatic forces are nothing but a balance, whereas we have the eustatic changes are changes in the water level. Right. So let us go from the beginning of geomorphic processes and have a quick glance over these. The Earth's movements are classified into the geomorphic processes. The Earth's movements or the geomorphic processes are classified into endogenetic forces and exogenetic forces, right? Endogenetic forces alone. Now, endogenetic forces are diastrophic forces and sudden movements. In sudden movements, we will be having the volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. In the diastrophic forces, it is tectonic, isostatic, and eustatic. Further, epirogenetic and genetic and orogenetic. Orogenetic is tensional forces and compressional forces. Right. The endogenetic movements, Earth's movements is classified into geomorphic processes are classified into endogenetic and exogenetic. Now, in the endogenetic movements are further classified into diastrophic and sudden movements. Sudden movements are shorter. You have to remember that sudden movements are shorter in duration. They are unpredictable. You cannot predict them and can be observed by the human beings. They can be observed by the human beings. Example is the earthquake, and then we have the volcanic eruptions, whereas the diastrophic movements are movements which operate slowly but continuously. These movements are operating slowly but they are operating continuously and lead to the primary landforms. These movements are causing the move, elevate, build up the portions of the Earth's crust. Diastrophic movements are classified into again three types. This is tectonic, isostatic, and eustatic. Tectonic means to build up something. The forces cause some kind of a creation. Example is the mountain, plateau, and huge continent. Isostatic are balancing forces and eustatic are changes in the water level. Now this tectonic forces is classified into eperogeneric and orogeneric. Eperogeneric is the building of the genic also, right? Eperogenic is building of continents. So eperogenic is building up of the continents and orogenic is building up of the mountains. Orogenic will be having the building up of the mountains. Is the building up of the continents, and orogenic is the building up of the mountains, right? So eperogenic is the building up of the continents, and then we have orogenic is the building up of the mountains. This is two types. So here this tectonic force is only classified, right? This tectonic force is classified into eperogenic and orogenic. Now this orogenic is again further classified into tensional and compressional. Eperogenic means it is mountain building, and orogenic eperogenic means continent building and orogenic means mountain building. So eperogenic is building up of the continents, whereas orogenic is building up of the mountains. Eperogenic is huge upliftment. It should happen in huge, right? Upliftment or the subsidence is what we have the continents. But for mountain building, we have to go for faulting and folding. So folding, and then we'll be having the faulting. So how do you tell the folding is what we say it as compressional forces, right? So compression, or we call the faulting is called as a pulling apart. The faulting is pulling apart. Now we have eperogenic forces are causing a huge upliftment. There is a huge upliftment or there is a subsidence, sublimation. So we call it as a upliftment or sublimation. Whereas we will be having the orogenic are due to the compression. You have to compress it. So compression, or we can call it as the pulling apart. So compression or pulling apart. The forces are acting in the tangent direction. The forces are acting in the radial direction. So this is the Earth radial direction and this is a tangent, right? The forces are This is radiation, right? So sun's radiation, if you take this is a sun, the radiation is in all the directions, right? So forces from interior is what we call it as the endogenetic. Now we calling it as epirogenic forces. This results in the formation of the continents, and there is upliftment or subsidence. Now see this area, there is an upliftment, right? If it is in the reverse direction, if it is a pull, you get subsidence. So this is a radial forces, and this is the interior of the earth when you have this as a compression, and this is pulling apart. So this is a tangential direction. So these forces are radial direction, and here we have the tangential direction. Can you see the tangential direction, radial direction? These are tangential direction. These forces also move horizontally. Now this is going to be the radial direction, and then we have the tangential direction. Up, down, up or downward pull, radial force, and this compressional or the tensional forces. Compress or split is tensional forces. So here we have the compressional forces, or you can also call it as a tensional forces, right? Up or down pull, and then we have the radial force and compressional or the tensional forces. They act in tangential direction. Tangent, so they are acting in a tangential direction, away or towards each other. Tangential forces. This tangential force is with respect to the orographic, the orogenic, the tangential forces is with respect, the tangent is with respect to the orogenic. Earth experiences both the radial and tangential forces. Tensional forces and then compressional forces. Tensional forces are the faulting, compressional forces are the folding. Now we have to deal with the orogenic, tensional and compressional forces. The tensional forces is going to result in the formation of faulting, and folding is because of the compressional forces. So compressional forces results in the folding, whereas faulting is because of the tensional forces. Now, compressional or tensional forces both results in the formation of the mountains. Mountains are tensional, faulting, breaking down. Now we be having the, this is a fault, right? Because it is separating. So this is the tensional force. Here we be having faulting taking place and tensional force breakdown of the portion, but here we be having compressional forces folding. So tensional forces when they are folding, this is tensional forces or faulting. First we have to see the tensional forces or faulting, right? So because of the tensional forces here faulting is taking place, because of the compressional forces, because of the compressional forces folding is taking place. Breaking, there is no breakup of the layer, here we have break, but in folding or compressional forces there is continuity and no breaking up of the layer. It is having continuity, it is having continuity, and it is having no breakup of the layer in the folding. It is having continuity and no breakup of the layer. Faulting is having a breakup, right?